What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, a special Wednesday edition of the TTSP, and I am joined by the host of Nap Knows Buffalo, good buddy of mine, Kyle Napierala. Is it Napierala? I always mispronounce that. I want to get it right this time.
It's Napierala, but that's why I just go with Kyle Naps. It's just
Kyle
easier for everybody else involved because nobody gets it right the first time. So I was just rolling Nap.
Gotcha. Nap Knows Buffalo for sure. You got the sick backdrop. As soon as you popped up on the screen, I had to acknowledge that. You got, looks like Don Beebe, who's a good buddy of the show. You got Micah Hyde. You got Stevie Johnson. Looks like there's autographs there. I got pretty good eyesight seeing the 13 there signed.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty official stuff. My backdrop's a work in progress. I'm getting there. Hopefully I'm on your level next time.
Hey, I just got mine set up, so no worries. No
worries. So, Kyle, I have to acknowledge the fact that we waited all day this past Sunday for Sunday Night Football, and it's safe to say it was worth the wait. I want your thoughts on this past Sunday Night Football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Bills' performance. What are some things that jumped out at you, coming away from that victory?
So, first of all, I watched the game with a bunch of Steelers fans because my girlfriend and a couple of her friends and my friends as well, they're all Steelers fans, unfortunately. And so I was watching the game with them. I was the only Bills fan. So it was a tale of two halves. And I think you explain the game that way no matter who you watch the game with. But I felt it a little extra because the first half was like real down in the dumps. And then that interception happened. And you just felt all of the momentum change. And going through halftime, my only thought was like, can the Bills keep that momentum that they just got from the interception, from the pick six? And, I mean, we haven't seen them necessarily do that every single game this year. So that was really the big question for me. But then they came out, and they were just firing on all cylinders. They looked like a completely different team, especially on offense, because, like, the defense played well in the first half. But in the second half, the offense just came out, and they looked like a totally different unit than they did in the first half. And it was like they flipped a switch and were like, oh, yeah, we're the Buffalo Bills. We actually have a great offense in the year of 2020. We're not the 2007, 2008, 16 Bills. We have a great team, and we can beat anybody. And they just played with that confidence in the second half.
I completely agree with you. There was a different moxie, a different mojo, whatever fancy schmancy word you want to use. It just looked like they finally started to believe in themselves. And there's a lot of rumors that Stephon Diggs said, put the offense on my back and I will carry it. If that's what it needs to, if that's what needs to be done in this second half, who knows what was actually said. But I know Stephon Diggs as a competitor. And I think Stephon Diggs was just ridiculously uncategorized as a character issue leaving Minnesota. A lot of Bills fans were actually worried about how Stephon Diggs would fit in here.
I know a few.
I know a few as well.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say a lot of podcasters were. I wasn't one of them, but a lot of podcasters were a little bit worried about that. What are your thoughts on just what Stephon Diggs has brought to this team and how big of a weapon he has been for not just Josh Allen, but just for this whole organization?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, like he got miscategorized in Minnesota because he realized the talent that he was, and he realized he was being underutilized in that offense. And I think something just came out, whether a couple days ago, about how he kind of got word that they were gonna switch to a running team as opposed to being a passing offense. And I mean, as a wide receiver who already feels like you're being underutilized, probably not going to be happy about it. So it's understandable if he wasn't necessarily as happy as can be there. But then, he comes to Buffalo and he clicks with Josh Allen immediately, which, I mean, that's super impressive in its own right because you don't normally see wide receivers and quarterbacks get on the same page as quickly as they did. Like week one, they were already good to go and they didn't even have the regular offseason. So what he's brought to the locker room and to the team during game time is an edge, I think. And you've heard players talk about it, like how he just has a different mentality than a lot of other guys that some people have played with, where Like, it doesn't matter who he's lined up against. It doesn't matter the situation. He trusts himself. He trusts his teammates, and he just wants to go make a play.
Where does the acquisition of Stephon Diggs rank for you in terms of recent? I know Shady McCoy did a lot of big things for this franchise for the few years that he was here, but to me, Diggs has got to be one of the best acquisitions that they've had in at least 20 years, right? With how pivotal he's been to this team, it's I can't think of anybody else.
I think maybe the excitement of when like the whole Mario Williams ordeal went down, the excitement behind that might have rivaled this for like a day or two, but obviously that didn't last and it didn't have the full impact that it feels like the Stephon Diggs trade is having at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if any trade or any acquisition outside of obviously like getting Josh Allen in the draft and having him develop has actually impacted this organization as much as or as quickly as the trade for Diggs has. Like the stuff that he's been able to do, the ways he's been able to impact the offense, is just a different element that he brings. Having somebody with his talent level brings. I mean, it's worth even more than what the Bills gave up, in my opinion.
I think so too, and a lot of people saw that trade as the news and information trickled in. They're like, "We gave up what?" Now I'm like, I would probably give that up again.
Oh yeah, look, if you told me that the Bills had to give up even more than what they did, but they could get the return that they've gotten from Diggs, I would still be in on that because you know what you're getting back. You know you're getting back a top 5 wide receiver, and I'm not going to sit and argue whether it's higher up in that or lower in that, but like top 5, I'll put that up with anybody. He's having one of the best seasons for anybody this year.
If you said he was higher, if you said he was top 3, this guy is not going to disagree with you. So
yeah, I wouldn't either because he's having that type of year right now. Like he is having a top 1, 2, 3 wide receiver year in the entire NFL. So if you tell me that you can get that production for what the Bills gave up, I will do that every single time.
And obviously, you mentioned the first half was a slow first half. I practically fell asleep in that first half. I felt like it was the football version of NyQuil. I was just kind of
draining.
Like, oh my God. But then the second half, they looked like a completely different team. Josh Allen, I think it was the best rally the troops performance that he has ever had. I mean, in terms of being a leader and leading the offense, I know that there's been a lot of moments where Josh Allen has rallied this team. He's had comeback drives, but this was a comeback half. It was a completely different game once halftime, once the second half started, third quarter started, and we hadn't seen that much, as you mentioned. So, carrying on and moving forward, as big of a win as that was against Pittsburgh, are the Bills peaking at the right time? We see teams peak, and there's ebbs and flows in each and every season. But right here, December 16th, to say that the Bills are 10-3, coming off of 2 straight wins on primetime, one against the Niners, who were in the Super Bowl last year, and another against the Steelers, who have been a powerhouse team in this conference for, 15, 20 years, it feels like. I mean, how high are you on the Bills moving forward in the AFC playoff picture?
So I'm actually going to answer your question with a question, and it's, are the Bills even really peaking right now? Because I don't know if they are. I think there's the potential that the Bills aren't even peaking at this moment. Like they still have so much more that they could do, especially like offensively. John Brown's coming back, whether that's this week or next week. He's going to be back in this offense, and that just adds another element. So like what we've seen the last couple of weeks, that's not even the peak of the Bills' offense because one of their biggest weapons hasn't been there. Defensively, as we all know, like it was rough the first couple of weeks, and then slowly it's kind of starting to snowball and get together. And I feel like even defensively, they haven't gotten to that point because Matt Milano is just starting to get back into the mix officially now. Like I don't think the Bills have even hit the point where we can say they're peaking because they still have the potential to do so much more than what they're already doing. And what they're already doing is, really impressive. So as you can tell, I'm pretty high on the Bills right now. And it's a much different feeling than I've had at this point in the season for any year in like my entire fandom. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this the last time on my show when I had you join me via audio. I asked, how old are you? And you were like, what was it, 25, 26,
25. Yep.
25. So I'm 28. I turned 29 in April. Neither one of us have experienced this. We
Yeah.
neither one of us have ever had a conversation like this with another person. Like it just like what we're living in right now, we've never experienced. So it's uncharted.
I've experienced it in Madden.
Okay,
That's
I'll raise
about
you
it.
that. That's fair. That makes sense. I have as
Yeah.
well in Madden. I didn't even think of that.
Just literally only in Madden.
Only in Madden. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. But in reality, though, neither one of us have experienced this. So
Yeah.
to me, it's I don't know about you, but watching some of the shows out there, some of the mainstream FS1 shows, Colin Cowherd saying that the Bills are the best team in the NFL. Mike Greenberg is saying that they're the best team to go head to head with the Kansas City Chiefs. They match up better than anybody against the Kansas City Chiefs, even league wide, NFL wide. He doubled down on that today or the other day. So how does that make you feel kind of uneasy, or are you just excited for the fact that the Bills are the talk of the NFL world right now?
I think a couple years ago, I probably would have paid a little bit more attention to people saying that stuff, and I think it's because just watching, getting to see how the media and like the people, TV personalities, the guys who have their shows for like 2-3 hours a day, how they make their stances change like week to week. It's awesome to hear them say something like that, but I also know next week they could take a totally opposite opinion on it, and no one's even going to bat an eye. So I care more about seeing like all of that being said and kind of being backed up by Bills players, where they know how talented they are. They know that they can get to the Super Bowl, and it's realistic to get there, but they're also backing it up on the field. So as cool as it is for me to see guys like Cowherd say that the Bills are the best team, or I believe you said Mike Greenberg was the other guy. Yeah, saying that they were the best team to beat the Chiefs. As cool as it is for me to see that and to hear people say stuff like that, I try my best to not put too much into it. It's difficult though, because like you said, like we haven't heard people talking about the Bills like that before.
And I will say, Mike Greenberg is a guy that I really respect. I've admired him. He's been one of my, one of the guys that I've kind of idolized in the sports media, sports radio. He's had a fantastic career. Not to say Colin Cowherd hasn't, but let's be real. Colin Cowherd, he could have his outrageous takes or two every now and then.
Oh,
but there's a gentleman by the name of Nick Wright, and I wanted to mention this on the show. Okay, I have to say, God's honest truth. People are going to laugh. People are going to think I'm bullshitting the audience. People are going to think, no, I'm just saying that. Who is this guy? I honestly didn't even know who he was prior to seeing this guy on this show on FS1. I've never even watched that show. I knew that Chris Carter was on a show. I didn't know that Nick Wright was also on that show. I didn't even know who Nick Wright was. And I'm being God's honest truth. Nick Wright was able to, I guess it's mission accomplished for him, because he was able to bring in some fans, haters that didn't even know who he was. I didn't know who he was. I'm not even kidding. So, when there are talking heads like that saying things, oh, Josh Allen's this, Josh Allen's that, I'm saying to myself, I'd never even heard of the guy. So fill in the blanks for me. Who is Nick Wright, and how do you categorize Nick Wright currently, just based on some of his opinions of Josh Allen? Is he a true hater, or is there any validity to what he's saying?
So it's weird with Nick Wright, because is there technically validity to somewhat of what he says? Yes, because he only looks at a small sample size. So is he correct about like the small sample size that he talks about? Yes. Is he correct about Josh Allen as a whole? No. And it's funny that he does that, because he then got mad at Bills fans for there was a couple of things that he got mad at them for not characterizing everything that he said as a whole, and like whatever. But he's right that Josh Allen has had bad games. He's right that Josh Allen didn't play well in the first half. But he is wrong to say that Josh Allen is a bad quarterback who should not be trusted, because Josh Allen has shown time and time again that that's just it's just false, honestly.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, when push comes to shove, you want Josh Allen on your team. And has he had some bumps in the road? Yes. Like, of course he had. He's a young quarterback in the NFL. The only guy that I can think of who really hasn't had real bumps in the road, it's like Patrick Mahomes. Like, everybody else has had those bumps in the road where they make mistakes, they make a bad play, but when you can't judge them on the first time they go through that situation. You judge them on what they do after that based off of what they've learned.
I completely agree. And Pat Mahomes has had bumps. I mean, last week,
he didn't
really have a good game. So, I mean, every quarterback has had moments. And, I had seen this guy on, TV and never really, I saw him on TV every once in a while. But what I'm saying is, who is Nick Wright to act as if he's watched each and every Buffalo Bills game? Let's be honest. These national media members, and I am throwing this out there, they don't watch a lick of these Buffalo Bills games. Buffalo has always been looked at as the redheaded stepchild of the NFL, the Siberia of the NFL. I don't know why it is. I don't get it. I think we are one of the most earnest cities in the world. And I think that the NFL media should do the national media should do a better job of covering the team. And for Nick Wright to jump out there and say, I don't trust Allen, but I love Lamar Jackson. I love Baker Mayfield. You want to talk about hot and cold? Lamar Jackson is one of those hot and cold quarterbacks.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield could look like Brett Favre one week and JP Lossman the next week. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for people to just see that Josh Allen is far better than what even his most diehard believers like myself thought he would be. I can't remember a quarterback, Kyle, that made a jump like this from year 2 to year 3. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, he really, he's especially even if you just go all the way back to college, the jump that he made from college to year 1 and then year 1 to year 2, it's been a linear progression where every single year it's been like he's just picked one thing and been like, I'm going to get really good at this because this is the area that I need to improve on. And so he goes off, he improves on that, comes back, and he's better in that area. And then it's like, oh, I still have this area to improve on. I'm going to do that. And this offseason, it seemed to be his deep ball and just mechanics in general. And every single time he's had criticism, whether it's from Bills fans about something or, McDermott mentions like, hey, Josh could have done this better. It seems like Josh always goes out and gets better at whatever it is. Right. So I think literally the title that you have on the bottom right now, the headline, Josh is taking over. That's what more can you say? Because he is. He's taken over Buffalo. He's taken over this team, and he's leading it in the right direction because he just keeps getting better and better and better.
I hate to say I get some of the same people that commented when I would do these shows and I would say Josh Allen's the guy I want for Buffalo. Those same people are saying, man, Josh Allen's pretty good. He's a lot better than we thought. Can I get a sorry? Can I get like a, hey, you were somewhat right. Did I think it would go down like this? No. But am I happy to be somewhat right about Josh Allen? Very right about Josh Allen in comparison to most.
Compared to me, hey, hand up. I was very wrong when we drafted Josh Allen. This is not my prouder story as a Bills fan, but when we drafted Josh Allen, I was definitely on my way to the bar, and I may have gotten there a little bit quicker so that I could start drinking a little bit because I was not happy about the pick. And I'm very glad to be proven wrong. I thought it was a bad pick at the time, but you could see almost immediately how he adopted the city as his own, and he became a part of the city, and he became a part of the team, and every single thing that you want a guy to do, he did that. And it was impossible not to love him once he started doing everything that you want a quarterback to do. And then the play started happening, and he got better and better. And so look, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
At least you admit it. There are people out there that say, "Oh no, I wanted Darnold or Mayfield," when really they wanted Josh freaking Rosen. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Hindsight 2020. Hindsight 2020. Always. But let's get down to it as far as diving into these keys to victory for the Bills' Week 15 battle with the Denver Broncos. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I'm not looking past any team. A lot of people are worried that this could be like a trap game, being that the Bills are riding high off of those two back-to-back primetime victories. Now they're playing on Saturday afternoon against a Denver team that is up and down. They're a little bit of a seesaw. They don't really know who they are. As far as keys to victory for yourself, what would you say are your keys to victory? Start off with number one. Number three, I should say. Your number three key to victory.
My number three key to victory is to make Drew Lock uncomfortable. So that is my number three, my first that we'll go over. And I think that you have to make Drew Lock uncomfortable because he is such an up and down quarterback. Like, you've seen games where Drew Lock can be really good, and you've seen games where Drew Lock can just be terrible. And he just doesn't look like he belongs in an NFL offense just yet. And he has both games. So it's not like he's a really good quarterback just yet. It's not like he's a terrible quarterback just yet. He's still learning. He's still growing. And this team, they have a lot of weapons. So if you let him kind of get into a groove, he could have like some stuff that he could take advantage of. Like, they have some good young talent on this team.
Yeah.
But if you make him uncomfortable, then it's like he's going to have a tough time against one of the better defenses over the last couple of years in the NFL. So I think the Bills have to make Drew Lock uncomfortable by getting some pressure on him.
I agree. And I think as far as those young weapons, Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I really loved coming out of college. Yeah. Thought it was a great fit for him to go to Denver. It's one of the few places that I thought he could go and be an immediate impact key contributor right out of the gate. And then as far as KJ Hamler, he has been fantastic. He had a great game last week, arguably his best game as a pro. So, there are weapons on this team. What I'm a little bit worried about, to be quite honest, is my key to victory would be to stop the run game. I think that this is actually a great tandem, a nice veteran tandem between Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. And the Bills' defense at times has been gashed up the middle. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked like Barry Sanders when we played him. And I hate to say it, but it's just facts. Quickly kind of dive into, both Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, and what are your expectations how Buffalo can stop them?
Honestly, I don't know if the Bills have to worry about like focusing on them as much as we think. Because if the Bills do what they need to do on offense, and then they can get in the face of Drew Lock, then Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay shouldn't be as big of a factor because the Broncos should be playing from behind at that point. Now, if this game ends up being a closer game, if the whole trap scenario happens and the Bills don't come out and play a good enough game to have a couple score lead or even a one score lead, and it's kind of going back and forth, then it's obviously going to be tougher because both of these guys can run hard. They're shifty. They can break some tackles. They're both really good backs. It's interesting because going into the season, it seemed like they were going to possibly have the best running back tandem in the NFL. And I don't know if it's necessarily worked out that way just due to whatever circumstances. But these guys can both impact the game a lot. So I think stopping the run, for me at least, it depends on what's going on in the game. If it's a close game, then stopping the run is going to be extremely important.
My thought within stopping the run is that I think Denver is going to try to do that early. I think they're going to try to run the ball early. If the Bills can stop the run game early, I think this game could be over very quickly. And making Drew Lock kind of win this game for the Broncos, I think, is actually to the Bills' success. I think that will help the Bills greatly. But as far as your next key to victory, I think that this is, you touched on it there, but the Bills need to play like the Bills, right? That's how you described it. I think that that's the best way to describe it. And a team that knows their identity, Kyle, I think is the best version of itself. If they know who they are, they know how to win their way and play their way. I think that the Bills could be one of the better teams throughout the NFL the rest of the season. Expand on that. How do you see the Bills as a team, and how do you see who they are as a team?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, they are a passing offense. offense. So as much as I think myself and other fans would love to see the Bills have a better running game than they've had this year, that's just not what they do. So I'm not somebody who wants to see the Bills come out and try to establish the run in order to get the passing game going. I want the Bills to come out and just do what they're best at. We've seen over the last 2 weeks against the 49ers, who at the time were the 10th ranked passing defense, and then against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the second half, they were the second ranked passing defense at that point in time. We've seen the Bills come out, and once they decided we're just going to play our game, we're going to throw the ball because we know we can, there was nothing that the defenses could do to stop them. So I think that's what I mean when it's play like the Bills is why would you adjust what you do based off the defense you're playing when you know what you're best at is better than what they're best at? And the Bills passing game, when they decide, like, we're going to just focus on this, we're going to make sure Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, and then, of course, John Brown, if he's back, we're going to make sure that we just get them involved early and often. When they decide to do that, nobody can stop this offense because they are just that talented. So when I say play like the Bills, I mean the Bills need to go out, throw the ball around, and dictate the game with their offense, and then let their defense do the cleanup work to kind of finish the game out.
I love it. I love it. A team that knows their identity is a force to be reckoned with. Your last key to victory, Kyle, is winning a battle that is important in every game, but I think in this game it's extremely important. Take it away. Winning the turnover battle.
Win the turnover battle here. It kind of bounces off of both of my first 2 points of if you can make Drew Lock uncomfortable, you're going to force him into a couple turnovers. The Denver Broncos are the worst team in the league in turnover margin. They have 11 takeaways. They have 29 giveaways. So they have a minus 18 turnover margin right now. That's terrible. They're like, there's no other way to put it. That's terrible. So if the Bills can do those first 2 things, if they can dictate the offense, their own offense, the way they want to, they're not going to turn the ball over because they're that good on offense. And if they can make Drew Lock uncomfortable, they're going to put him in scenarios that ends up forcing him to turn the ball over. And when you play against a team that doesn't have their own identity, like you had mentioned, they're kind of still searching for what kind of team they're going to be. Are they going to be a running team, or are they going to take all this young talent and turn themselves into a passing team? Or like, who are they? When you have a team like that that's searching for their identity, when you have a quarterback who's still young, who's still learning, when you take that and you put it up against a really good team like the Bills, and then you throw in a couple of turnovers and take away some of their possessions, that makes them more desperate. And that puts them in tougher scenarios to make the right plays. So if the Bills can do all 3 of those things, this should be an easy cleanup win. Now, obviously, they still have to show up and play and do all of that. But if they're able to do all of that, things should go pretty well on Saturday.
I agree with you. And I like those 3 keys to victory. They were actually, I had mine and they were the exact same thing, like to a degree. There was a little bit of different stuff. They really were very similar to mine. I did mention, kind of getting Zach Moss and Singletary more involved. I think I'm all about, knowing who they are, and we know who they are week 15. We don't know who the Denver Broncos are, as you mentioned, but if we could see a new dimension to this offense, I think that new dimension could potentially be Singletary out of the backfield in the passing game. I would love to see Devin Singletary get targeted in the backfield in space. I want to see what this guy can do. I know what he can do, but in this offense, I want to see more of him. I want to see, obviously priority list Diggs, Beasley, Brown, but if you could sprinkle in Gabe Davis with Devin Singletary, I think potential, would just be outrageous against some of these opponents that we have throughout the rest of the season. But Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on. I want to remind everybody that Kyle is on the show, Thomas Take Sports Podcast, and as soon as I click end broadcast, Kyle will be on the Buffalo Fanatics. What is it, like the Power Hour?
So I will not be on. It's not my show tonight. I actually don't have one of the weekly shows. So tonight on the Fanatics, it's going to be Joe Miller, the voice of the Overreaction Podcast. He has the Hump Day Hotline. Cool. So they will be going live here in just about a minute or so. So if you have not gotten enough Bills content for the day, when we're done here, hop over to the Fanatics YouTube and or Facebook page or wherever you're watching, and you'll be able to catch them there.
Yeah, and before we were on, you were like, "Is it all right if I plug those shows?" I'm like, "Of course, man. I mean, I'm a co-promote type guy. I like to help people out. I understand that we're all in this together. We all love the Bills, and we all want to see the Bills do well. And we all have our opinions, and it's awesome that there is as much content out there as there is for Bills fans, because this is the best fan base in the country across any sport, whether it's football, baseball, you name it. Bills
and don't let any
best.
TV personality tell you otherwise.
No, especially this guy that I swear on. I swear I did not know who he was. I saw him maybe flipping through the channels, but is he one of those guys? Like, is he one of those guys that I thought, oh wow, this guy's saying this? Wow, Nick Wright, get the hell out of here, buddy. Come on, man. Come on. What a joke. I couldn't believe it. And I'm not one of those guys to say that people aren't entitled to their opinion, but you can't just come out of the woodwork and use that as your vehicle to become known. Josh Allen hater takes? Come on, man.
There's guys that know how to get clicks, and I think that I'm just starting to accept that Nick Wright is one of those guys. He's a guy who knows how to get clicks because he just has some outrageous, out of this world takes that, whatever. What are you going to do? And I can't help myself but to give it attention, but we really shouldn't give it attention. So
that's
slap on my own wrist there.
I did see him getting a lot of attention. I'm like, Bills Mafia, let's talk about the good stuff. We don't need to hear about another one. Dominique Foxworth puts out these weird political sports statements. It was very odd. I won't even go into what he said, but I saw that scrolling through my news feed, and I thought ESPN's PR department might be wanting to give him a call and be like, "Dude, what the hell's going on?"
I will say this because I don't want to get too much into that either. But I will say this: it's much easier to notice the negative than to take your time and actually find all of the positive that's going on when the negative is coming directly at you. So I will say that, but I don't agree with what he has said about Bills Mafia. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right. We support our fan base. We love our fan base. We love our fans. We love this team. We're excited about where this team is headed. And for the first time in our lives, we can wear our stuff. We always wore it proudly, but now it's different. Now
it's different.
People look at us and say, "Man, you guys." I have friends that are fans of the Panthers and the Packers and the Steelers and you name it. And they're like, "Man, Ryan, your Bills are actually pretty good." And it's just like, finally.
It's a little different to hear from people who aren't Bills fans of like, yeah, the Bills are good now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I like it, to what I asked you earlier. I like it. I can't not like it. It does feel a little weird, but hey, it's been a long time coming, and recording shows like this with guys such as yourself, makes it even better. So I really appreciate you hopping on, Kyle.
Yeah, no problem. It's been fun.
All righty, I'll chat with you soon. Anytime you guys are looking for another podcast to check out the Nap Nose Buffalo podcast. Kyle does a fantastic job breaking down the Bills, and I always enjoy hearing your takes, buddy. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. We'll have to get you back on Nap Nose Bills at some point here too.
Of course, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Let's go Bills.
Of course, go Bills.
Go Bills. Take care, buddy. So that was Kyle of the Nap Nose Bills podcast. I want to answer any and all questions that you guys have in regards to this podcast episode. I saw a lot of comments trickling in here. Kyle was on the show for a half hour, got him on for a solid half hour, and such an awesome dude. Greatly enjoy talking to him, and it's great to have podcasters chit chat every now and then. I want to answer: do you see a slight letdown in Denver Sunday being a pretty emotional win? I don't. I think that this is going to be a solid Bills victory. We didn't go into score predictions for this one, but I do believe that the Bills will win this game 31-21. I do see it being a little bit of a closer game than what most people believe. I see it being a fun game to tune into because I think Drew Lock is a lot better than the way he has played. I think he's better than what he has shown, shall I say. And knowing that, I was very high on Drew Luck coming out of the draft. Drew Lock. Yeah, Andrew Luck, man. If Denver had Andrew Luck, they would be in much better shape, I think. But we'll see. Maybe that does happen one day. Let's see here. We got P. Pinchera on YouTube. Nick Wright would make a great table at the tailgate party. Folks, I shit you not, I did not know who Nick Wright was up until this past week. I never really watched him. Flip through the channels every now and then, watching ESPN, watching FS1, seeing him on certain radio shows and stuff, but I didn't know really who he was. He got some followers, whether they love him or hate him, by some of his hater takes on Josh Allen. And Prince Hater says, I love Josh, but I didn't want Josh either. I wanted the Bills to draft Josh Rosen. That was a consensus just across Bills Mafia, that they wanted Josh Rosen. They thought that he was the more established quarterback, being that he played in a legitimate, quote unquote, legitimate conference. That stuff doesn't matter anymore. A quarterback that is getting a lot of flack right now for the lack of production that he has shown, Carson Wentz. He played for the North Dakota Bisons in not even Division I football. That's a quarterback that I'm not ready to give up on either in Carson Wentz. I think that he is a solid future ahead of him. Is it in Philly? No, I don't think it is. I think he needs to leave Philly in order to achieve his true potential. Will he leave Philly? We'll find out. They got him on the books for quite a little while, and they're on the hook for some money for Carson Wentz. So there you have it. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Buffalo Bills versus Denver Broncos. Keys to Victory show, joined by Kyle of the Nap Nose Bills podcast. You can check them out, Nap Nose Bills, on all the podcasting platforms as well. Folks, I want to remind you that the Thomas Take Sports Podcast is available on all podcasting platforms as well, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I have seen so many viewers and subscribers and people tuning in, comments over the course of the last 3-4 months, 5-6 months. The show has grown tremendously. It's going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to have guests on the show that you guys will truly enjoy. The off season, I have a lot of things worked out. The off season for football, for the NFL, I have a lot of guests coming on then. There are some things scheduling wise that not really been matched up, but once the off season hits, there'll be a lot of guests on the show within the NFL world, then the NCAA world, and I'm very much looking forward to bringing them to you. This has been an awesome time this season. It's been a phenomenal season, and I only expect it to continue as the Bills go 11-3 and clinch the AFC East for the first time since 1995 as they beat the Denver Broncos, in my opinion, by a score of 31-21. I am Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Take care and go Bills.